Today's show is sponsored by libertarian conspiratorial fantasy author Jack Casey. Whether you're looking for a 3-book fantasy sci-fi epic of love, death, and dystopian civil war like the Royal Green series, or just looking for a quick, dark, comedic cultural commentary tale about a transsexual slayer of COVID regime vampires, like his latest book, WVW, Jack Casey Books will keep you adequately entertained and pondering the universe to your weird little heart's content. He's the Ayn Rand meets Stephanie Meyer meets somebody who actually writes entertaining books with his own unique little downer-esque flair. Find out more about Jack Casey Books at the aptly named jackcaseybooks.com. Once again, that is jackcaseybooks.com. Have you guys heard of Matt Miller? He's not only the guy who paints those amazing portraits of all your favorite heroes in the liberty movement and in pop culture, but he's also now an official sponsor of this show. From Murray Rothbard to Ron Paul, Dr. Robert Malone to Darth Maul, Matt Miller's Liberty Portraits has something fun for everyone to spice up your home or office and showcase your heroes. Go check out his incredible work at libertyportraits.com. Grab a print to impress your friends, hire him for a custom portrait, or bring him out to a festival to capture your event in real life in a beautiful and unique way. To find out more, just head over to libertyportraits.com. Once again, that is libertyportraits.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and the Mises Caucus is taking over the Libertarian Party. I have a very special guest for you today. We're going to spare as little time as possible to get into it, because I know he's a busy guy. He's busy, taking over state by state and pissing off all the right people. But we got to do our due diligence and play this intro, and you guys got to go out and share it. And Daniel W., who said 15 minutes of ads. No. It won't be 15 minutes of ads. It'll be 16 because you said that. But let's get into it. Let's get weird and let's do this thing. Here we go.
The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
I'll make questionable decisions. I'll be in fight of my soul. Judge me for my sins.
Little shorty intro. All right. So we are back. Welcome to The System is Down, the least comfortable show on the web. If you're not familiar, this is the place where we talk about all the uncomfortable topics like conspiracies, politics, religion, and who knows, maybe we'll talk about all those things. But primarily, lots of libertarian shit lately, because there's lots of amazing things going on in the Libertarian Party, and I didn't know if I would ever be able to say that. That's a sentence that some people might be skeptical whether or not that would even be possible. But before we get into that, I got to remind you guys about yourselves in the Downers Club. People like Ryan Graham, Tom, Kimberly, Owen, Matt Miller, Peter R, Kid something, Matt something, Gigi Vaughn, Zeroth Anarchy, Cole, Lauren Carter, Level 0, Vanzot Media, Jack Casey, Kyle Evans, Craig DeCosta, Joe Kabinski, and a bunch of others. If you want to get your name on that list and have me read it perfectly the first time, every time, go on over to patreon.com/The System is Down and sign up for the Downers Club for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee or one super chat per month, because YouTube banned me from super chats before I even was able to do it one time. So if you want to get more weird, more raw, more offensive, more weekly content, you can get the bonus after parties and all of the fun bonus stuff over at patreon.com/The System is Down. Get in there, get awesome, and get stuff. All right, so we're gonna do this. Yeah, you already saw the ads at the beginning. jackcaseybooks.com, libertyportraits.com, Matt Miller, great guys, amazing work. If you don't want to support them, if you don't like their work, if you don't like them as human beings, then just go join the Downers Club, and you can also get ad-free versions, and you don't have to listen to that stuff. Anyway, we're going to do this now. We're going to. It's been a long time coming. Friend of the show, from behind the scenes. He's like the puppet master of all things. He's the I don't know, the anti-hero, the supervillain, the Thanos of the Libertarian Party. He is the one, the only. Where's my button, Mr. Michael Heisz. Michael Heisz.
Going on, Dan.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I like to think of myself as the MF Doom of the Libertarian Party, because I'm the illest villain.
Oh, I like it. So you've gotten a lot of shit over the years, and I used to think it was because you were what they were saying. I believed some of the rumors, and now I realize it's because they're really scared of you. And do you want to? Not everybody here is libertarian. Not everybody here is, knows all this stuff. I imagine most of them have picked it up over the years, but give a little bit of the history of the Mises Caucus. You don't have to go too deep because I mostly want to focus on what's happening right now, but give a little bit of background on you and this movement.
Gotcha. So basically what we are is we are bringing the Ron Paul revolution and the liberty movement, which is much bigger than the Libertarian Party, into the Libertarian Party. And for quite a long time, there has been kind of this divide between what you might call Libertarianism Inc., Cato Institute, Reason, all that kind of stuff, and the liberty movement. That's a big problem that we're trying to solve. And where we kind of got started, the scope of the Mises Caucus was very limited when we got started in 2017. At that point, the trajectory of the party was kind of going progressive left, and it was looking like Bill Weld would be the presidential nominee for 2020 unless something stepped in to change that trajectory. So that was pretty much what it was back in the day. We were basically concerned that Bill Weld would actually be allowed to enter the debate stage and destroy the word libertarian from there on out, as Bill Weld, being the first impression of libertarianism, is not representative of the movement that bears the name libertarian. And
he already got pretty close when he was running as partner president or whatever with Gary Johnson. So
yeah, that was bad enough. And I think that was the wake up call for a lot of people that something had to happen here. It was certainly the wake up call for me. Mm-hmm. So for him to be, leading the ticket and like I said, he has enough connects to where they might have actually let him into the debates and be that first impression of libertarianism and the Libertarian Party to the American people. And that to me was just completely, not acceptable. So, we got started with kind of that as our scope. Things exploded pretty much right out of the gate. And the scope has expanded from then to now be what we call the decentralized revolution, which is basically to get into positions of leadership within the Libertarian Party for the purposes of radicalizing its messaging so that we can better represent the movement, be much better recruiters, bring that movement in, and then funnel that recruitment down into local action, running city council candidates, mayor candidates, all of that sort of thing for the purposes of decentralization and nullification, and also getting involved in issue coalitions, which is something the party completely lacks.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, a big focus, obviously, is running good candidates that are actually libertarians in the Libertarian Party, but you also brought in a lot of people that were the biggest names in the movement that were not only outside of the movement, but they were or outside of the party, but they were being pushed out of the party and being chastised by leaders in the party. I don't understand any of this. I don't understand any of this. What as somebody who was more on the inside of that stuff and knows what happened, is it just jealousy? Is it just because all these podcasters and influencers are having more impact, or what's the deal there?
So I think jealousy is a big part of it. I think the original idea here, though, was there was a concerted effort by Nick Sarwark, in his own words, when he was chair of the Libertarian Party, to take the Libertarian Party towards the progressive left and kind of have the culture shift that way and the messaging shift that way. These are people who think that, Ilhan Omar and AOC are the most libertarian members of Congress. Now, they would say that over Thomas Massey,
Right.
And so that's kind of the direction that they wanted things to go in. And it seemed to line up right in that, 2016 time where, woke politics and woke messaging really started infiltrating our institutions heavily. I mean, I know it started before that, but it became really mainstream, I would say, around that time, and really pushed by the universities and just overt. So they were trying to toe that line and basically say, hey, we're free market progressives or something like that. And I think part of taking the party in that direction and is to cut it off from who happen to be the big figures for the libertarian movement, because they themselves are pretty much all of them personally conservative. You're talking Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, Justin Amash, Judge Nat. All these people are kind of a more conservative, personally conservative background or personally conservative culture. So I think if you want to take the party to the left, you're going to have to shed that weight, so to speak. And I think that was it, what the trajectory was. And then we came in and started exploding. And I think that these people have kind of been the people that lead the vision of the Libertarian Party for the past 20 years. And they've never really been challenged. I don't think there's anything that's ever really come into the party that has consistently maintained competition with them. I think they've been successfully able to kind of just disgust people away on an individual by individual basis with their antics. And we came in and said, no, you're not going to shake us off. That's not going to happen. Like we're returning this party back to its roots. And I think they're jealous, and I think they have no idea how we're doing it. The one of the rumors is that I have Steve Bannon in my back pocket. It's like that's where these people's heads are at. They can't fathom that just tapping the vein of the liberty movement and asking them what they want out of the Libertarian Party would be the thing that gets them to come in. Right.
Yeah, and it's funny because they're like, oh, the Mises Caucus is a bunch of conspiracy theorists. First off, I don't take offense to that at all. But
Me neither.
like they're a bunch of conspiracy theorists. They think that like what's the name? Soros is behind this and that or whatever. But at the same time, they're doing the exact same thing in reverse, and they're the only ones who are like acting like conspiracy theorist is a pejorative, but they're doing the exact same thing on the opposite side. So I've noticed so much projecting, especially over the last 6 months, of all the allegations of corruption here and there, while they are corruptly doing the exact same thing that they're accusing you of behind the scenes. What's your take on that?
Again, I think they just can't fathom how we're doing what we're doing. Like they have to make up excuses because for them to say, okay, they're out recruiting us. They're doing more phone calls than us. They're reaching more people than us. They would have to, in order to accept that, they would have to look inward and say, I failed here, here, right. here, and here. My strategy is a failure here, here, and here. My vision is a failure. And these seem to be people who are completely incapable of introspection, whereas that's what I try to do. Like I remember in 2018, when we had our first convention, and we only existed for like maybe 7 or 8 months at that point, and we went from literally nothing to Josh got, I think, like 23% of the vote. Yeah. The very first thing I did is go to Facebook and say, I failed because I didn't take the state team organizers thing serious enough in those 8 months, and I failed there. And that's just my first reaction to things when things don't go my way. It's like, I must have failed. I must have not done enough. I must have miscalculated. I must, and
being honest,
try to figure those things
novel
out.
Concept in politics of being honest and taking responsibility for your shit.
Honest, but it's an introspective honesty. People are very averse to saying, well, I fucking suck here, or I sucked there, and for whatever reason, and that's where I really try to lean into, in my personal life and in this whole project. And it's really seemed to pay off. And an added benefit is as a result, people really seem to trust me. And I take that trust very serious. Yeah.
It's also funny because they're like simultaneously calling you guys a bunch of immature little like man children and like trolls and shit posters and stuff. It's like, yes. And we're also winning. Like, what does that say about you? If like we're and when I say we, I mean you. I'm not officially a member. I stay away from that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care. Whatever. We're like beating you while you're calling us racists and misogynists and babies and like immature little children. It's like, okay, well, you're losing to children then. So I guess you'll have to cope with that at some point. But
it's a point that Tom Woods makes that I think is so prudent and hilarious, where he's like, listen, I'm Tom Woods. I'm the receiver of the Hayek Lifetime Achievement Award in my mid-40s. I'm one of the biggest podcasters. Dave Smith is a Jewish Nazi, and he's got one of the biggest podcasts. Like, if this is who if you really mean that stuff, if you really believe that stuff, and these are the leaders of the movement, then it's hopeless. It's hopeless. Just give up. You know what I mean?
You shouldn't be a part of that movement. Why would you want to be a part of a movement that's full of Nazis? Like, it makes no sense. It's like when JBH bailed out and he's like, I'm leaving because this is a racist party. It's like, well, you're the fucking leader, or are you not? Like, if it was a racist party, then you were the leader of a racist party. What does that say about you?
Yeah, exactly. But I think deep down they know that they don't believe this. It's just that they don't know what to do. They don't know how to respond.
Right.
They don't seem to have a message that is capable of galvanizing people. And they don't seem to have a strategy that resonates with people and motivates them to get involved. And basically the game for the past 20 or probably even more years has been, oh, good God, I hope we get enough votes to get into the debates, or I hope we get, that 12% or that 15% for matching funds. And it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And it turns out, I'm apparently crazy for thinking this, but as it turns out, there doesn't really seem to be a big return on investment on votes if you don't, it's so long as you don't win.
Right. Exactly. We've got a pretend super chat from CD. She says, pretend super chat. What is the MC leadership's plan to ensure that state chairs are never simultaneously national chairs?
So, I mean, that's just a cultural thing. I mean, I would do my best to just encourage people to never do that, because it's not very efficient.
Mm-hmm.
The party hasn't run, or seemingly hasn't run, like a business for quite some time. So, that's kind of the mindset that we try to bring to things, and that we try to inculcate within our organizers and the people that we're running for leadership, is that, we want to be efficient. We have scarce resources, and we have to focus them properly. And that also goes with our human resources, our time, our effort, and all of that stuff. So, I mean, I can't be like, well, I'll kill you if you don't do it, but right. I can do my best to try to advise people. People don't realize how much of my job is mediation and advisement.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, David Brady asked, and this kind of transitions into this convention stuff that's going on. That's the most interesting and most important stuff right now. But he says you should ask Heisz what conventions he is going to. Let's get into the convention.
So I'm going to a lot less this year. I was just at West Virginia and New Jersey. I'm going to try to make Maryland and Delaware. But I'm going to be traveling a lot less this year because, one, I don't want to use those resources. I'd rather use those resources on our leadership candidates and stuff like that. But then I also have a situation at home where me and my wife are going through fertility treatments, which, I kind of have to be here at certain times of the month, and I might not necessarily know that until the week of. And, it makes it hard for me to make concrete plans right at the moment.
Is fertility treatments what you call having sex a lot? Just curious.
Well, that's one of the treatments. It does cure certain things.
Sure. Now it's cool. So this I initially invited you on because the LPPA convention just went down, and that was just a beautiful shit show and just a joy to watch happen from a distance. I think I was up in New Hampshire that week, but. And then we scheduled it for today, and I'm glad we did, because this weekend was just a whole bunch more Mises waves going on. So let's start with the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania convention. You want to break down a little bit of what went on there? I do have at least one video that I want to share here, but take it away.
Well, I'm not sure if you heard, but I pulled a gun and knocked out like 7 people.
I'm not surprised.
Kind of took the thing over.
And really, if you had pulled a gun, you wouldn't be that much in the wrong, since somebody else there was threatening to shoot the bus of Mises Caucus people. Just self-defense at that point.
Yeah. No, so what happened with PA, you kind of have to understand, in order to understand the what and why of what just happened in PA, you kind of have to understand the context of what happened at last year's convention.
Yeah.
Because it all kind of seamlessly fits together and crescendoed at this last convention. And basically what happened is, last year we recruited our asses off. We brought a whole lot of people to the 2021 LPPA convention, and we had a speaking event with Dave Smith and Scott Horton and several other people. Jeff Dice came out. It was great. And we had like 370 people at that event. And, so the next day we had the convention. That was their biggest convention that they had on record, or at least that's what they said. And they had 260 registered voters. And, we had worked really, really hard. We had leadership candidates and bylaws proposals and all this stuff. Well, there's also a rule in Pennsylvania. You're never getting it, Karen. But we had all these plans, and there's a rule here in Pennsylvania that you have to be a member for 180 days before you are by default able to vote at the convention. And we all knew that, but the entire history of the party, that rule had been waived. Right. And the new members have been allowed to vote. I mean, I've been to, 4 or 5 of them now, and it was always waived. People who've been here 30 years were talking about how it's always waived. Right. And then not only that, but the leadership was going to, people in the new counties that were being built and telling them, oh, don't worry about it, come on out. People who were running as candidates that didn't meet that deadline, oh, don't worry about it, come on out. But then once they knew that we were running leadership candidates, they started poisoning the well and telling, because the leadership here, they worked hand in hand with the Jorgensen campaign, and Mises Caucus people weren't exactly on fire on the Jorgensen campaign. So, and this was a tactical mistake. This was a tactical mistake in hindsight, though, because what happened was the people that did work that campaign were allowed to unfetter poison the well on the people who happened to come in through that campaign. Right. And so they had the middle of the party believing that I was a transphobe, that I was a racist, that I was a bigot, I'm running a mafia, all this stuff. Whereas prior to this, I've been in the party like 6 years now, had good relationships with everybody, and then I have like total noobs being like, oh, you're that bigot. Right. And I'm like, the fuck? And so, because of that narrative control that they had over the middle, they were able to keep the new members from voting. So that was like 140 out of that 160 that were kept out. And so they were able to maintain control. And in the time since then to now, we have very, very aggressively recruited and organized. We created a whole bunch of county parties. We out-recruited in a bunch of existing counties. We started getting on committees, and we became the majority of the state board here, which has over 40 votes before we ever even got to convention. So they kind of knew what was coming. And so what crescendoed in this convention is this was the new, biggest convention that we've ever had. And there was 340 people voting, or that were at least credentialed. And we were like 85% of it. So we came in, we had our own agenda because the chair had never announced an agenda. In fact, the chair, midnight the night before business started, put out an email saying that while we're arguing the agenda, she's going to be getting a massage. And she had never even created an agenda.
I heard about the massage. I was listening to actually Carlin's breakdown of the Fakertarians episode with her this morning. Everything in Liberty verse is so fucking meta at this point. I'm just gonna do breakdowns of breakdowns. But the massage thing I thought was hilarious, especially since you're like, hey, I can't come until we're gonna be late today because I'm getting a massage. I'm like, oh, is that a LPPA leadership thing? You guys all just bail on responsibilities when massage time comes?
Yeah, I mean, and people are trying to make it out to be like, oh man, they brought in all these out-of-staters and all that stuff. I mean, and there were definitely out-of-staters there that were voting with us. But the thing is that last year they brought in about 24 out-of-staters to vote against our new member in-staters, while we took measures specifically to keep out-of-staters out and keep our new out-of-staters out of voting. Yeah. So, once they open that Pandora's box, it's like, well, we're not going to deny ourselves a tool now since they already did it. And the numbers were breaking down, like our estimates going into convention is that we had something like 160 to 180 people coming in state and somewhere between 50 and 60 or 50, 65 out-of-staters coming. So even if you take, and we're talking votes that went like 270 to 70. You know what I mean? We're talking crazy vote totals, and they would have got rolled with or without the out-of-staters. But yeah, so when we got to the convention, it became very obvious very fast that we were the vast majority of the room. And, Jen didn't show up. So our central vice chair, Bill Sloan, and our western vice chair, Sam Robb, who is a big donor to the Libertarian Defense Fund, they were chairing the meeting, and they were obviously stalling. They were at one point, Sam Robb was,
speaking in slow motion
like this.
Like half speed.
Speaking in slow motion on purpose while saying he's not trying to stall anything. Openly ignoring objections, ignoring calls to questions, ignoring everything. So we decided, we got stuff we want to do. None of these people paid all this way to come out here to not do business. So we got to vacate the chair and put somebody who will move business. Right. And that's where it got peak contentious to the point where, all questions had been called, debates over, and all that was left to do was vote. they were refusing to do that, and then somebody stole the microphones. So you got the chair not doing anything, not moving business forward, and then somebody stole the microphone so that delegates could not be recognized. It was like Ron Paul 2012 all over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and one of our guys had to retrieve the microphones from one of the guys that stole the microphones.
Shout out to Mitchell Mankiewicz. He's in the Downers Club.
Yeah, man. And I saw that happen, and Mitch is a friend of mine, and I knew that he was on oxygen and had a heart monitor and all this stuff. So as soon as I saw, the guy who stole the microphone kind of walk into him, I ran right over and was like, you're not touching anybody. And he tried to do it to me, and I gave him a shoulder bump and to let him know, like, no, you're not going to intimidate me. Like, we've worked too hard. Like, fuck this, you know? And if you want to take it all the way, then we'll go all the way, but that's on you.
Right.
And, I think at that point, the chairs, security came down, they retrieved their microphones, we had to clear the aisles. And I think at that point, everybody knew, like, it is what it is now.
We did transition pretty seamlessly into 2022 now. So some people are asking.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Which one is he talking about? Yeah.
22. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And also, if people want to go back and hear more about last year's, I did interview John Odermatt on, I think, episode 240, talking about the Mises Caucus Takeover versus the LPPA Pittsburgh bylaws. So we got pretty deep into the weeds there if you want to find out more about that. But yeah, carry on. So, okay, go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Basically, I was just wrapping up and just saying that we finally had the vote. We were able to change the chair. The people who were chairing resigned on the spot. Some people rage quit. And we had a much smoother meeting after that. And we swept all of the officer positions. We swept all the delegates. And, we achieved what I was setting out to, which is, this is going to sound pretty brutal, but I knew the entire country was going to be watching us in Pennsylvania, and on the grand chessboard of the national party, how strategically important Pennsylvania was. So I and our team here worked very, very hard, not to just eke out a victory, but to basically bash the fuck out of these people in front of everybody.
Metaphorically bash the fuck out of them.
Yeah. And frankly,
unless it comes to that.
Them. But yeah, the goal was to basically set that tone on what might be the biggest stage of the year, state convention wise, and I think we achieved that.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely made some noise, definitely got some attention, and it definitely got the desired outcome. And you mentioned some people rage quitting. I have something. I'm not sure if I'm set up for screen share. Okay, yes, I'm here. Where are you? Let's see. There you are. Okay, so I've got this. Well, I'll just play the video, and then maybe you can explain, or you set this up. You know more about this guy and what this situation is. Set up this video. What are we about to witness here?
So this was the lieutenant governor's race. John Waldenberger had been running for about 3 different things. Any of you guys that use Twitter more than I do, I'm sure, are familiar with John Waldenberger. I've actually known him for about 4 years. He's in my county.
I only know him because he threatened to sue me for memeing him once.
Yeah, he's apt to say those types of things. Mm-hmm. He's a little emotionally unstable. But basically, there's nothing stopping anybody from running for a position, even if they have no chance to get it. And this has been kind of something that's been going on in the party for a while, where people run for positions with no expectations of winning, just so that they can get some stage time on the mic and feel important. And that's what John was doing here. And I guess this was his big mic drop moment. I'm pretty sure he thinks he's a hero in his own mind, for basically telling 80% of the party how awful they are, or 85% of the party. And it couldn't possibly be him, like it couldn't possibly be him or anybody in the 15%. It's the vast majority that has something wrong with. So this was his triumphant quit.
Beautiful. Here we go.
John Waldenberger, why should you be our lieutenant governor candidate? On this day in 1967, dozens of individuals marched across the bridge of Selma, Alabama for freedom. The Libertarian Party is supposed to stand for freedom.
Did he plan on wearing that shirt for a reason? Like, it's just too good. It's too perfect. Like, does he have a sense of humor, or is it just me?
He's got his own sense of humor.
Yeah, something.
Last year or so for this position. The actions taken here today and this weekend show me that this party, as it currently stands, is not the party of freedom anymore. Show some respect, please. He has the floor. You guys want to break the law and make sure we don't get candidates on the ballot and can never get candidates on the ballot as a political party? This is our job. You have shown your true colors. There are some great folks in this room who have put dedicated hours, money, time, sacrificed time away from their families for this fucking party. And none of you have shown the respect that those people deserve. So to those of you who have not been shown the respect you deserve, I am sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your apology.
At the end of this...
Do you know who said the thank you for your apology? Was it sarcastic thank you, or did
I don't know. It could very well be a commiserator.
Yeah, it felt to me like just peak wit, just very sharp in it, like on point. So whoever did that, I hope that you meant it sarcastically, because good on you. And if not, grow up.
Convention, I officially resign my position in this party.
Now, I love the idea. I love just thinking about what went through his mind and how he spent weeks in, like, just mulling this over, this amazing mic drop moment. And he never factored in the variable of, will people be applauding my quitting? Will they be laughing at me? And will that drown out my mic drop moment? Maybe you should hold for applause before the mic drop. But you can't even make out what he's saying when he does the mic drop moment. So I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And, yeah, he storms off, middle fingers in the air and all that fun stuff.
But here's the thing. So there's actually my what I thought was the funniest part is not in that video, which is as he storms off, he grabs one of the mics that the voters use to be recognized by the chair.
Yeah.
And the guy on the right side of that video with the white hair, that's Ken Krawchuk. That's who was chairing the meeting at that point. Mm-hmm. And so he grabs the mic and points at him and goes, "And fuck you, Ken Krawchuk."
Yep. I'm sad that nobody caught that, because that's beautiful. I guess it's probably in the full. Did they release the full length?
Yes, they did. With a parental advisory warning on the language.
Nice. Shocking. So there was also the moment of what's it? Will McVeigh. What happened with Will McVeigh? He called for like all real libertarians to. Do you want to share that story?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember those, like, the details of that. And I knew he was there, but I didn't actually like see him or interact with him. Especially if it was Friday, especially if this was like Saturday, I was kind of all over the place. So there's definitely details that I missed.
Yeah. I think it was Karen Ann Harlos who was talking about it, and she said that he proposed all libertarians get up and adjourn to the parking lot, and 0 people followed him. And I mean, that's just how many of these things has to happen to these people before they go, maybe I'm wrong, actually. Maybe nobody likes me, just like everybody said.
No, so you got to understand, they're heroes in their head. That was John's attempt to save the party and to tell, the vile racists who have taken over the party what's what, and he's going to show them. And that's where these people are in their heads, man. And like, I'm not saying we should adopt Angela's idea and actually use a line item in the LNC to get therapy, but somebody should friggin' pay for therapy for these people. Right. Like, there's definitely something going on.
Yeah. Now, Sarwark also gave one of the most hypocritical speeches I've heard in a while, but I did have the clip, but I don't have it pulled up. So do you want to explain? So just some of the
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, I remember him saying he wanted to run for chair of the LPPA.
Well, I'm referring to.
I'm telling you, I was like in the Discord, and I was kind of doing mic stuff and talking to people, and yeah.
Yeah, well, from the clip, it doesn't show the entire beginning, I don't think, of what he was saying, but he said something to the effect of, "This is the most flagrant example of corruption I've ever seen," and everybody just laughs at him. And I'm not even sure
I'm
what he was
assuming-
referring to, because, and I wanted
I'm
to ask
assuming
you.
I'm assuming it's how we selected our delegates.
Ironic.
Because I know he was, I know he was really upset about that, and we did kind of go to a plan B on
Right.
how we selected our delegates.
Yeah. What was the plan B? Like, what did he feel? What did he feel like he was being wronged through? If you can break down
Well, again,
kind of the way the rules
set
work.
up the let me set up the context, because basically the rules just say that delegates get selected. There is no standard method of voting for the delegates. So Plan A, I had actually workshopped with the convention and membership committee chair, the secretary of the party, and our information systems chair. So Plan A was to basically just have everybody who wanted to sign up to be a delegate fill out a form, which is always available at these national convention year state conventions.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to sign up would close at some point. All of the names on there would be entered into a form, and that form would be emailed out to all of the credentialed voters. And you would either be able to vote as many times as you want. Let's say it's 80 or 100 people in the pool for 49 spots, or you would get 49 votes out of the X number of people who are in the form. And I was the only one who even put a method of voting forward. It was just going to go into it with nothing. So I offered workshop this e-form idea. Well, the chair shot me down, basically citing that electronic voting, if we were to email that out to everybody, there's people who are not on the floor that would be able to, vote because they had left or whatever, and you need to be present. And he's right. That's true. And frankly, I hadn't even thought of that. I was just trying to eliminate paper ballot, because just think of the situation of 300 to 340 people, each voting 49 times out of a pool of 80 people.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a mess, So I was just trying to solve that problem. And that got shot down. Mm-hmm. So then we were left with nothing. So then what I did was, we were running out of time on Saturday at that point. So what we did is we had a list of our people who were running for delegates, and we basically just rammed that through and got our entire slate passed in one fell swoop, our 49, by suspending the rules to make that available for a vote. It's not how I wanted to do it, but I mean, honestly, it's would have ended up in the same result anyway.
Sure. Gotcha. So that's what he's referring to as corruption, is basically just getting your guys in.
So yeah, he had signed a form to put his name in the running to be a delegate, and ultimately the delegates get elected. So what he was saying, I guess what he was saying is corrupt, is that he had filled that out but never got a vote to to be in the running, even though he signed up for it. But the body was cool with the 49 that we had signed up. I mean, it was a pretty pro Mises crowd, and I mean, it just would have been
probably wouldn't have gone his way
either
way. Yeah.
No.
Gotcha. Yeah. I assumed. I just got to ask because if there's corruption in any side, I want to call it out. But so what else happened here? I've got a couple notes here. Jackie Perry posted how she was casting a hex on the convention. That's fun. We had Joe Solosky threatening to shoot up a bus. We had a guy who's tragically named Daryl Brooks doing things. You want to break down a little bit of that stuff, because that involves you.
Yeah, man. And this is something, I mean, I definitely screwed up on this, and I've owned that and taken responsibility. It's kind of keeping with my theme earlier. If you got to look inward a little bit. But what I was attempting to do here was, you keep bringing up Joe Solosky threatening to shoot up a bus.
Yeah.
The context there is that this guy had been running for seeking the governor's nomination for over a year. And, everyone kind of sees him as a politician. There's no real depth to his messaging. He's the kind of person who will be really nice to your face and tell you whatever you want to hear, but then goes around and does that to everybody. And that when that inevitably creates a tangled web, he'll get called on it and try to pretend like he didn't do that. And, there had already been a lack of trust between the Mises Caucus and him, because, we had newsletters that were sent out from the state party to our membership that had op-eds attacking us. And one of those op-eds was him literally saying that we were cancer.
Right.
And
very unifying.
So there was already, and so there was already a bunch of problems there. I don't think he expected that the people he called to be a cancer or called a cancer to be 85% of his nomination interest. But
Yeah.
so there was already that lack of trust, and I didn't really spend much time looking at the governor's race. I was heavily involved in organizing and phone banking and onboarding and and all of that kind of stuff. And then what you're talking about with the shooting up the bus thing happened. He had shared, and this was the week of the convention. He had shared professional images of him holding guns, and one of them was him holding a 9mm, peering out a window and saying, waiting for the takeover bus. And that's a reference to the fact that we used buses last year and sold tickets for people to carpool from Philly to Pittsburgh, and it was a better value.
Yeah.
And so they used this to say that we bust in a whole bunch of undesirables or whatever.
Mhm.
And in that same thread, Sarwark said, "Don't shoot until you see the white of their hoods."
Right.
And Solosky liked that comment. Now, again, I don't know if he didn't realize that 85% of the convention were going to be these alleged white hoods.
Right.
But I couldn't sell that. I mean, prior to that, I was okay with just like, look, we didn't put any time into this. We don't have another candidate. Why don't we just let it go?
Right.
And he was going to get noted no matter what after those comments.
Yeah.
So I had some talks with this guy, Darrell Brooks, about possibly running for governor, a couple months prior to this. And my attraction to this guy was he lived in the Philly area. He was involved in Ron Paul 2012. He's good friends with Murray Sabrin and a bunch of the people that we have on our team in New Jersey. They vouched for him. He ran for state assembly in 2009 as a libertarian. He had led on ballot access initiative for Gary Johnson in 2016. So, I mean, on paper, he was a good candidate. So I said, all right, well, no, Joe Solosky's getting noted. Might as well just try something. And so I went up and nominated Darrell. And in the proceedings, I come to find out, it was getting shared all over the place that he had been convicted in 1995 for indecent exposure or something like that. And, it blindsided me, which in turn blindsided everybody else. And to make matters worse, Darrell was asked when he went up on stage, is there anything in your past that we would need to know about, basically? And he said no.
Right.
So that didn't help things.
Right.
And ultimately, he didn't get the nomination because you have to be a resident of Pennsylvania for 7 years, and he's only been in for 3 years. So, that was definitely a mistake on my part. But then you got to look at the facts of his case. Of course, our political enemies are trying to make this out to be like, oh, well, this monster cornered a little girl and jerked off in her face, and and like he's a pedophile, and you know what I mean, like and just trying to like way exaggerate it and way it out to be something that it wasn't. But what had happened was back in 1995, so we're talking about almost 30 years ago. Darrell comes from Trenton, New Jersey. He comes from a single mother household. He grew up in the hood and around all of that sort of thing, and he got out of that life. And he started engaging in activism against drug dealers. And because, drug dealers aren't exactly the coolest thing in those communities.
Sure.
And so he had caught beef with some of these drug dealers. And so he claims that he was actually at a Bible study at some church when the alleged incident took place and that he was never there. And what he's accused of
that's a little too. That's a little sus. He not only wasn't there, but he was at a Bible study. I mean, come on.
he's big on that though.
Sure.
Like he really does lean into that stuff. And what the claim is that he was walking around in broad daylight. He's a 6'5" beefy black dude. Walking around a duplex in Trenton, New Jersey, which happened to be right next to a police station, naked from the waist down, holding a bottle of brandy. And the only people that saw this were a 9 and 11-year-old girl who happened to be the daughters of one of the drug dealers that he was beefing with.
Okay, I see where this is going. So with this like nomination or whatever, like your endorsement, was this something that, like, obviously you didn't know about that until the day of, but even you nominated him just on the spot there, or like had you?
Yeah.
Okay. So this wasn't like you were pushing his campaign from the beginning or whatever and just didn't look into him.
Nah.
This was like, hey,
No, I
we might
mean,
as well take a shot at this because we're here.
Pretty much. I mean, I've had some light interactions with him before. Something that happened with me and him in the past that I was really impressed by was me, him, and a mutual friend, Dan, had gone to the BLM protests in Philly. We attended the peaceful protest. I was talking to people there about like Walter Williams and Thomas Sowell, and, you know, how there is a problem here, but it's not racism. And you know, we don't need to form race mobs. We just need liberty.
Yeah.
And you know, this kind of thing. And he was there for that. And eventually we broke away from the peaceful protest and started listening to police scanners to find the riots and the lootings. And so we did, and we showed up on scene, and Daryl ran straight into a building that was actively being looted, and he was live streaming. And the reason he did that was because, like I said, he's a reformed hood guy.
Sure.
So like he went in there on some, yo, brother, you don't need to do this. Like, this isn't going to help. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
He was on some hood rat shit. Is that what you're saying?
He was on some anti-hood rat shit.
Yeah.
And
he was actively anti-hood rat shit.
But that's really courageous, man, because, you know, you're talking about people who are actively engaged in crime. You know, you got a fucking camera in your hand. That could get dicey, you know, and you know, I was really impressed by that act of courage. And, you know, so that made me see him in a certain light. Obviously, I'm biased to anybody that was part of the Ron Paul thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, my friends vouched for him. So that was mostly the extent of it. But there's a happy ending to all of this, because what ended up happening is the whole position was noted. And so we just had nominations this past weekend for governor and lieutenant governor. And we've got an anti-war veteran named Matt Hackenberg, who is going to be running for governor here in Pennsylvania. And he's going to be, you know, focusing on the COVID regime, focusing on defend the guard, you know, and all the kind of messages that we want to push. So really excited about that. He's a very smart and passionate guy, and he's got that personal connection to the defend the guard thing. And cool. I think pushing that and having legislation in hand to push forward within this campaign is big.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, more valuable as well. Now that so that happened in PA, and then what was this weekend? New Jersey, West Virginia, Colorado. Are those three?
And Michigan.
Michigan as well? Okay. So I know very little about those. First, do you have anything else on the PA stuff that you want to go over before we wrap that up and move on to some of these other ones?
No, I mean, I'll take questions if anyone's got it, but
sure.
I think that summarizes.
Gotcha. And people in the chat, feel free to drop your questions. And if it's a legit question, you know, just put fake super chat, and I'll read the good ones. That doesn't mean that you're actually going to be read, because they are fake super chats, and I am not obligated to you in any way. But so yeah, moving on to the others. I don't know anything about these. It seems like it was more peacefully taken over, and was there less heat on those, or what happened?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is there was no heat at all in West Virginia, in New Jersey, what did I say? Michigan. What was the other one? Colorado. Yeah, no heat in Colorado. And there might have been it sounds like there might have been a little friction in Michigan, but nothing like PA. I mean, standard fare basically. But the thing is that we did, I don't want to give exact numbers, you know, and tip my hand, sure. But we did very, very well. Let's just say that we did very, very well. Those 4 conventions put together is about 10% of the entire delegation, and we did very, very well. We're very, very pleased. We exceeded our expectations, and you know, again, I'm not going to give any exact numbers, but we feel very good going into convention. So people need to just keep their foot on the gas pedal, make sure they get those flights out to Reno, make sure they come, and it should be a pretty good time. Yeah.
So this question, would this be tipping your hand too much to answer, or is this something you can weigh in on?
So I would say, I don't have an exact number, but it's got to be somewhere between 35 and 40 states that we have the numbers in. Not the numbers, meaning like we have enough people to be showing up and control a state convention. Now, sometimes you have issues where maybe you have the numbers on the floor, but you don't have people running for every position, or maybe you get the chair seat but you don't get the majority, or maybe you get the majority of delegates but you don't have somebody running for this or that. So I kind of having the numbers is kind of the thing that I go off of. But in most of these states where we have the numbers, we have the majority of the board as well.
Yeah. What all states do we have left, as far as like how many conventions are there left before Reno?
Looks like about 18,
Okay.
20. And the big ones that are left are Texas and Ohio, and then everything else after that is a tier below,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, and CD was asking some questions about Texas. What's the situation down there as far as the support for the Mises Caucus?
Well, again, I don't want to. That one's touchy because they're under a lot of scrutiny there.
Okay.
And Texas is the most complicated state to organize for. There's so many counties, and then in order to even like go and vote in convention and become a delegate, you have to get elected 3 times, and
Okay.
that's not bylaw stuff. That's state law stuff. So like you got to get elected at your precinct elections, and that happened last Tuesday. And then you got to get elected at your county elections, and then you go to state, and everything happens from there. We don't have a chair candidate right now because Whitney is very popular, and if you're going to mount an attack on her, you better win. You better have the numbers. But we do have people running for several other positions, and I will say we exceeded expectations in our turnout in Texas. Again, I don't want to blow up their spot, and anything like that, because they run a pretty harmonious operation down there. They are not taking over; they are merging.
Sure.
And that has really helped their reputation and all of that. So there's some deranged people down there, Aaron Goss, Elliot Sherman, but what tends to happen is that when these toxic people, act that toxicity out, it pushes people towards us because we're sane.
Yeah, exactly. How many rage quits do you predict for? I think we should start having like polls or like bets, drinking games and stuff. Yes. How many rage quits do you predict for Texas or for Reno in general? If you had to pick,
I don't have a number, but I think of the most toxic people, and they are likely to quit.
Yeah.
But one thing that's really important to me is that like it's funny to talk about this stuff, and a lot of people have asked me like, oh man, you must feel so great about the victory in PA, and don't get me wrong, I do, but the number one feeling that I have is relief. I don't actually want to be fighting these people all the time.
Right.
I will rise to the challenge, and if you start a fight with me, I'm going for the fucking knockout. But I don't want to be fighting these people. Mm-hmm. I want to be scaling up the strategy, that we are acting out, which is the local level candidates for the purposes of nullification, the issue coalitions for the purposes of nullification, and forming metrics by which we can even identify viable races for these nullification activities and dump resources there. That's what I really want to be doing. Like, and it's unfortunate like that we have to engage in this fighting, so I don't want people to quit unless they're like truly toxic, then
unless they're like threatening to shoot up buses or whatever. But Audrey Danielle asks, why do you hate the Molten Maneuver?
So I don't hate the Molten Maneuver. I got elected.
Also, what does that mean? Because I'm not nerdy enough to understand.
Gotcha. So the Molten Maneuver is, have you heard all of this stuff about like Pennsylvania is the most successful libertarian state party because they got all these elected libertarians?
No, but sure.
Have you heard about that?
I mean, everybody.
There's something like 180. There's something like 180 elected libertarians in Pennsylvania. And the means by which that happened is called the Molten Maneuver. And essentially what the Molten Maneuver is it's tedious, but it's not rocket science either. What it is you've got the primaries here. Libertarians are not part of the primaries. Primary day comes and goes. Once that happens, who's going to be on the ballot and where. Mm-hmm. So then we can go and collect that information. And by collecting that information, we can see what races are not being sought at all. So then what has happened from there is, about $20,000 was spent on a physical mailer campaign to register libertarians to say, hey, this position is open here. If you get your 30 signatures or whatever you get on the ballot, you'll be the only one on the ballot, right, and you'll almost assuredly win. And, on paper, it's a great idea. And, we got like 160 people elected this year by it. The issue, though, the issues is, one, the positions that are being elected are like, it's mostly constables.
Sure.
And now there are states where constable is a position that matters. Pennsylvania is not one of them.
Yeah.
What it means to be a constable in Pennsylvania is you keep the peace at the polls. That's it.
Okay.
You can pay a few $1,000s to be trained by the state in order to serve warrants. I don't know a single libertarian that's going to come out of pocket $3,000 to serve warrants on behalf of the county.
Right.
I just don't see that happening. So that's the vast majority of it. And then the second tier is mostly auditors, which, I mean, I guess you could do a little bit with that, but again, you can't nullify. You're not in a legislative seat. You can't, so like there's not much you can do. Now, there's also, they focus on 170 or 200, whatever the raw elected number is. The silver lining is that there's people who got into important seats through the Molten Maneuver. Every once in a while, there is a vacant city council seat or a vacant mayor seat or a vacant school board seat. And those are seats that you can really do something with. Right. And then not only that, but what we did, so we got involved, we got signatures for that, but we also got involved in some contested races and beat people in contested races. I'm sure your audience might be familiar with Kate Crosby. She got elected mayor. Her boyfriend, Andy, he got elected to city council in the same town. Benjamin Sievers, he got elected to city council, literally running on privatize everything.
Nice.
As a libertarian.
So why are you opposed to it? Or why do they think you're opposed to it?
It's not that I'm opposed to it. It's just that because they focus on this raw number of 160 and say, well, we've got 160. So that's their metric. How many libertarians do we have elected? That's their metric. My metric is how much liberty are we creating?
Right. How much valuable are those 160 people creating? Yeah, I got you.
Correct. And because, this goes against the narrative, and you're not allowed to do that. So I have a different metric. And then the other thing is, it was like $20,000 in physical mailers. Yeah. We're not even properly like getting and utilizing data to send texts and all this other stuff or email bombs to do it. And the other criticism I have for it is that it was completely run through the state board. So like you have, the former chair and a few other people who were front running this thing. And what seems to be a consequence of that is that the people who are running and getting these positions, they have no real relationship with the party. So so for example, York County, where I'm sure Jacob Winograd, where he's an elected libertarian. They have 15 elected libertarians in this one county, or 16, and it's the most of any one county in the state. 3 of them show up, 2 of them are Mises, 1 of them is not. All 3 of them were active prior. And this is something that happens over and over, where these people don't integrate into the party. They don't come to county. They don't, and I think maybe if you decentralize the process down to the county so that the county chair is maybe the one doing the reaching out, maybe you get a little bit more of that retention. But for me, I just have a different focus and a different metric. For me, this whole focus on ballot access and elected libertarians is kind of putting the cart before the horse. Yeah. Number one, we need members. We need our army. If you don't have an army, you're not going to have door knockers. You're not going to have people to maintain ballot access and all this stuff. You're not going to have, you can't run real campaigns without members. Right. If you're not knocking doors, you're not a real candidate. Statistically speaking.
The whole method sounds like optics, and there's value to that, but it's just like, hey, we've got this number. There are a couple other questions, so we probably should move on because we're going a little long here. But Sean Patrick asks, fake super chat, is there any chance the opposition just burns down the party somehow? Maybe some kind of fraud at Reno?
I mean, I think they've already burnt the party down.
Yeah.
They've been burning it down for 20 years.
Right.
And there's states where it was pretty thorough. Like Nevada, there was nothing left. Mm-hmm. When we took over there, it was so completely and thoroughly run into the ground. So, I mean, they could try. I don't know what fraud they could try. I think it's going to be pretty similar to what they tried in PA. They're going to try to filibuster. They're going to try to say, oh, this delegation isn't valid. That delegation isn't valid. But there's limits to the effectiveness of that as well. It's not like somebody can say, well, I challenge Pennsylvania, California, and Florida. And then all of a sudden, those 3 states are just removed. They have to be voted on one at a time, meaning the worst that they can do is, let's say, California. You know, they can target the state where they think the most Mises people are and say, I challenge this state. And each of these challenged states has to be voted on one at a time, meaning that, you know, let's say Will McVeigh is recognized and his 2 or 3 other delegates are recognized by default and credentialed. They will get to vote until such a time that they are challenged and knocked out.
Yeah.
So the people who are credentialed get to vote by default. And when you challenge all these states, they get voted on one at a time by the rest of the body who is credentialed.
Yeah.
So there's limits. It's not like they can just say, well, you know, I challenge every state except Indiana and we win. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you can't do that.
Well, God bless you guys and your different brand of autism than mine, because all of this is just like, oh, cool, neat. Like I'm gonna make a spicy video about this nerdy political shit, so it's fun. It's good, good mashup. But I know we've got a lot of questions coming in and everything, but we are gonna have to. If you're still down, we can jump over to bonus, and then people can ask more questions in there if you're done. You cool with that?
Cool.
All right. Well, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Finally, it's been a long time coming. We'll end on this for the main. Just give people like your elevator pitch for the Mises Caucus, not just the Mises Caucus, but why they should be excited about Reno and why they should be excited about this this insurrection that you've concocted.
Okay, so there's 2 answers for that. One, and this is, I think, arguably the more important one, is if you get involved in the Libertarian Party right now and you get involved in your state, chances are what you're going to find is that in a non-presidential year, there is record turnouts of people coming out. And something that we have that the opposition does not have is a community. We have a nationwide community that is, and out of that community is emerging a culture. And our people are now becoming bonded through that culture. And that, I think, is the most important thing here. I mean, whether it's the Libertarian Party, whether it's the GOP strategy, whether it's agorism or whatever, I don't think anything, period, can work if you don't have a legitimate community. And that is something that's happening now. And if you haven't experienced that yet, you will experience it when you come out to Reno. You will see it. Everybody is having a great time. Everyone's happy to be there. We're breaking out of that social club mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So I think really engaging and this thing that I'm describing is also the thing that made the Ron Paul revolution so special. We were a community. We all had each other's back. We were all moving forward in the same direction. Nobody was questioning the utility of what was happening. Not really, you know, and people felt good moving forward together. And every time you met somebody, it was like you met a new best friend. That is now happening in the Libertarian Party through this community. So that's really, really exciting. And then the other thing is, you know, what we're trying to do is give the Libertarian Party, perhaps for the first time in its entire history, a long-term strategy beyond 2 years of the LNC cycle. You know, what and our 10-year strategy isn't, oh boy, I hope we you know, our strategy isn't, oh boy, you know, I hope we can get a politician that can raise 13 or, you know, X million dollars so I can have a job for 6 months, act important, and maybe we get you know, maybe we get X percentage of the vote. My 10-year strategy, our 10-year strategy is, how do we get 10,000 city councilors, mayors, sheriffs, judges? How do we get secession rolling? How do we get, you know, how do we create, as Hoppe put it, the 10,000 Liechtensteins?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that we're entering a really unique time and a unique moment where it actually is more advantageous to do this from the Libertarian Party. And I know that sounds counterproductive to a lot of people, but the reason I say that is because we are now out of the period of time where the mainstream media, the corporate press, gets to control the dissemination and the narrative of everything. We're now at a time where there's only old people are getting their information from that, and everybody else is getting their information from this patchwork of podcasters, whether it's Joe Rogan, whether it's Tim Pool, you know, all over the place. And we are this close to these people. You know what I mean? Like we are basically in the mix of the counterculture, and by us entering that counterculture on our own terms, we are not shackled by the baggage and the brand and the narrative and the culture of the GOP anymore. We can be our own thing, and I think that's really, really important to do that. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, even though your gas prices are going up like a motherfucker right now.
Right.
But I'm really, really excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I am as well. I'm going to get there one way or another, and this has to be documented because whether it's a sweep or not a sweep, or a fist fight, or everything's peaceful, something's gonna happen. It's either winning or probably fraud, and it needs to be documented. So I'm planning on being there. But Michael, thank you so much for being here, man. It's an absolute blast having you on. And tell everybody where they can find out all more information about the Mises Caucus, where they can donate, where they can sign up and join.
Well, I want to first give a shout out to Joseph Van Wagner, Mark Bizzacco, Jacob Winograd, Rob Coburn. I'm going to miss a few people here, but the team here in Pennsylvania really put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of nights, a lot of meetings, a lot of onboardings. I mean, we brought in like 500 people almost in the course of about a year and a half. And these people were all manually brought through Zoom meetings and trained. Yeah. So it was an arduous process, and everybody was a part of that. So just thank you to all of those guys. As far as how to follow and support us, go to lpmisescaucus.com and fill out the form. That'll get you on our email list, but it'll also get the attention of our organizers who will reach out to you. We do regular emails through that. You could go to misesmerch.com and get your swag, especially if you're going to convention. We've got the HOPA Doing What Must Be Done Since 2017 shirt. We got the Ron Paul Be Brave shirt, all kinds of good stuff there. And if you've got more, money than you got time, you can go to takehumanaction.com and become a donor to Mises PAC.
Right on, man. Well, I applaud you. Everything you're doing, it's amazing. It's got me invested in the party, and clearly plenty of other people as well. So keep up the great work, man. And we'll jump over to the bonus. Just hang tight, and we'll be right back with you, man.
Thanks, man.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you for being here for this stream. It's been fun. And if you would like to get your Michael Heisz Thanos middle finger Mises Caucus shirt for Reno, just go on over to thesystemisdown.tv in about a day or two, and it'll be up there. Don't worry. And thank you for joining. We're going to jump over to the bonus now. There's already a post that went up in there, so that's going to be live streaming here in just a couple of moments. We'll probably answer some more questions. Maybe we'll talk a little bit of conspiracy shop. All sorts of fun, spicy things. But get over there for the continued ginger spice of Michael Heisz in the after party. But thanks for being here, and I'll be back on Wednesday covering the news, most likely, and lots of fun stuff. Lots of convention things and lots of other fun things. I'll be in Delaware speaking. Somebody actually asked me to speak, so I'll be there. Come hang out and have some fun. But we're jumping over to the bonus now. Join me there in about 2 minutes, and we'll keep this party going. Until next time, question everything, stay uncomfortable, and we will talk to you then. Peace out. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe on your way out and help us change the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time. And if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, go join the Downers Club at patreon.com/thesystemsdown for bonus episodes of the show every single week. Until next time, please continue to question everything, stay uncomfortable, and I'll talk to you then. Thanks.
This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.